The first thing I'm aware of every morning isn't the alarm clock. I haven't used one in years. It's the gentle, rhythmic breathing beside my bed, a soft huff, followed by a quiet sigh. Sometimes it's the faint jingle of a metal tag on a collar as an ear twitches in a dream. But most of the time, it's the weight. A heavy, warm, reassuring weight of a head resting on the edge of the mattress with two brown eyes staring into my soul, patiently waiting. That's Max. He's my 7-year-old. Well, he's my everything, and he's my real alarm clock. I swing my legs out of bed and his tail starts to thump against the floor, a slow, steady rhythm. Thump, thump, thump. It's the metronome that sets the pace for my entire day. My life for the past 5 years has been a fortress of routine. It's quiet, it's ordered, and every single brick was laid with intention. Max is the foundation of it all. Our morning walk is a silent conversation. I don't need a leash in the early hours. He stays right by my side. We have our path. Down the 3 flights of stairs from my apartment out onto the still sleeping street and towards the small park at the end of the block. He knows every interesting smell, every lamppost that requires careful investigation. I know every crack in the sidewalk. He'll look up at me every so often, just a quick glance to confirm I'm still there, and I'll give him a little scratch behind the ears. It's our check-in, our way of saying, I've got you. You've got me. We're good. Back in the apartment, the routine continues. The coffee maker gurgles to life while I fill his food and water bowls. The smell of brewing coffee and the sound of him crunching on his kibble is the official start to my day. I'm 27 years old. I have a decent job in data analysis that lets me work from home 3 days a week. I have a clean, minimalist apartment that I'm proud of. It's not huge, but it's mine. The sunlight hits the living room just right in the morning, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. There are pictures on the bookshelf. My college graduation, a goofy photo with some friends on a camping trip, and a framed shot of Max as a puppy looking impossibly small and clumsy, his ears way too big for his head. But if you scan the walls, the mantel, the side tables, you'll notice a void, a conspicuous blankness where a family should be. There are no pictures of the woman who raised me, my mother, Eleanor. That void isn't an accident. It's a choice I remake every single day, a reminder of the door I closed 5 years ago. Years. Today, though, the quiet hum of my life has a special undercurrent. I glance at the calendar on my phone. A little notification pops up, a simple one. I set myself Max's Day. It's been 6 years to the day since I walked into the county animal shelter. I was 21, still living at home, trying to figure out what to do with my life after college. I went in just to look. An hour later, I was walking out with a terrified, skinny 1-year-old mutt who wouldn't even make eye contact with me. The shelter staff said he'd been found wandering and was scared of everything. They named him Max. I kept the name. It felt solid, dependable. For that first year, he was my shadow. He followed me from room to room in my mother's house. He learned to trust that my hand meant a gentle pet, not a threat. He was the first thing in my life that felt truly 100% mine. He wasn't a family pet. He was my dog, my responsibility, my anchor. Tonight we celebrate. It's our tradition. I log off work right at 5 and head to the specialty pet store. I let Max pick out his own toy, which always involves him sniffing every single squeaky plush animal in the aisle before inevitably choosing a ridiculous-looking bright green alligator. For dinner, I grill a small, unseasoned steak for him, which he devours in about 12 seconds while I have my own seasoned version. Later, we're settled on the couch. The city lights twinkle outside my window. Max is curled up beside me, his head on my lap, the new alligator toy lying vanquished on the floor. I'm scrolling through old photos on my phone, smiling at the pictures from that first year. Him tangled in blankets, him covered in mud after his first real hike. He was my partner in crime, the anchor that kept me steady as I navigated the choppy waters of my early 20s. The piece is so complete, so absolute, that when my phone buzzes on the coffee table, the sound feels like a rock thrown through a stained glass window. I glance at the screen. The name glows with a cold, unwelcome light, Aunt Carol. My whole body tenses. It's an involuntary, full-body cringe. My jaw clenches. My stomach twists into a tight, hard knot. Aunt Carol is my mother's sister. For 5 years, she has sent occasional signals into my silence, signals I have never once returned. Texts that say, "Your mother misses you." Holiday cards with a little note scrawled inside, "Life is too short, Lucas." My thumb hovers over the green answer button. A war rages in my mind. A tiny, treacherous part of me whispers, maybe it's important, maybe something's wrong. But the rest of me, the part that built this fortress of peace, screams louder. It's a trap. It's always a trap. Max lifts his head from my lap, sensing the sudden tension radiating from me. He lets out a low, questioning whine. His big brown eyes are full of concern. He nudges my hand with his nose as if to say, "Hey, are you okay?" That's all it takes. I look from his worried face to the glowing name on the screen. I press the red button. Decline. The ringing stops. Silence rushes back into the room, but it's different now. It's heavy, tainted. I flip the phone over, placing it screen down on the table. Out of sight, out of mind. Or so I tell myself. "It's nothing, buddy," I whisper, stroking his fur. My voice sounds strained, unfamiliar. It's just nothing. He seems to accept this, laying his head back down, but he lets out a long, deep sigh. He knows. He always knows. He was there. The silence I've cultivated for 5 years feels fragile now, like a thin sheet of ice. I can feel the cold, dark water of the past swirling just beneath it, threatening to break through. Aunt Carol's call isn't just a call, it's a crack in the ice, and I'm terrified of what's about to come crawling out. My hand is still on Max's back, the repetitive motion of stroking his fur meant to soothe both of us, but my heart is hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The phone lies on the table, a dark, silent rectangle. But it's not silent, not really. It feels like it's humming with potential energy, a tiny grenade waiting for the pin to be pulled. I try to force my attention back to the TV, to the mindless chatter of some late-night talk show, but the words are just noise. The air in the room has gone thick and heavy, charged with the ghost of that phone call. A minute passes, then 2. My breathing is shallow. I'm trying to will the moment away, to push it back into the box where I keep everything related to my mother. But it's no use. The crack in the ice is there. I can't unhear the ring, can't unsee the name. And then it happens, a soft bing. The screen lights up again, a notification, voicemail. Of course. She left a message. Aunt Carol isn't the type to be deterred by a single declined call. She's a bulldog, my mother's loyal, persistent bulldog. For 5 years, her persistence has been background noise easy to ignore. But this feels different. The call immediately followed by a voicemail. It feels like an escalation. I stare at the notification icon, a tiny red circle with a number 1 inside it. It feels like a drop of blood on a pristine white canvas, a stain on the life I've so carefully built. Part of me, the logical, self-preserving part, screams at me to just delete it, swipe and erase, pretend it never happened, go back to celebrating Max's adoption day, go back to the quiet, predictable peace. That's what the Lucas of the last 5 years would do. That's how I survived. I built walls, and the first rule of wall building is that you don't open the gate for anyone. But another part of me, a much weaker, much more foolish part, is consumed by a gnawing curiosity. An emergency, it whispers. What if it's a real emergency? What if Grandma... No, they would have led with that. What if something happened to my mother? The thought lands with a confusing thud in my chest. I don't know what I would feel. Relief, guilt, nothing. The not knowing is a hook, and I can feel it digging in. Max whines again, low in his throat. He shifted on the couch and is now sitting up, watching me intently. He rests his chin on my knee, his gaze unwavering. He's seen this look on my face before in the early days after we left. The anxiety, the turmoil. He's connecting the sound from the phone to the storm brewing inside of me. "It's okay, boy," I lie, my voice a low rasp. "I'm okay." He doesn't believe me. I take a deep breath, the air catching in my throat. I can't leave it. The unanswered question will fester. It will poison the silence I worked so hard to achieve. I need to know what it says. I need to know what new weapon they're trying to use against me so I can build a defense against it. That's what I tell myself anyway. It's not weakness. It's reconnaissance. With a hand that feels strangely disconnected from my body, I reach for the phone. My thumb swipes across the screen, my password a series of muscle memory taps. I navigate to the voicemail, my heart rate accelerating with every touch. I press play and lift the phone to my ear, turning the volume down low so Max doesn't have to hear it. Aunt Carol's voice floods my ear, and it's exactly as I remember it. A little too loud, a little too strained, dripping with a forced, urgent sincerity. Lucas, honey, it's Aunt Carol. Listen, I know you don't want to talk. I get it. But this is important. There's a pause, a theatrical, shaky breath. It's about your mother. She's not doing well, Lucas. She's not herself. And your grandmother's 75th birthday is next Saturday. We're having a small party for her, and it would mean the world to your grandmother if you were there. It would mean the world to your mother. Another pause. I can hear the unspoken accusation hanging in the air. How could you be so cruel to your grandmother? Then comes the final volley, the final blow. Look, she says, her voice dropping into a conspiratorial reasoning tone. It's been 5 years. 5 years. Don't you think it's time to just let it go? It was a silly fight over a dog, honey. Life is too short to hold on to something so small. She needs you. Please, just call me back. Or just show up. For your grandmother. The message ends. A soft beep signals the end of the recording. I slowly lower the phone from my ear. I feel nothing. For a split second, there's just a hollow, ringing void where my emotions should be. My brain is processing the words, turning them over and over, trying to make sense of the sheer cavernous disconnect from reality. A silly fight over a dog. Something so small. And then the numbness shatters. It doesn't just break, it explodes. A wave of heat rushes up my neck and floods my face. It's pure white-hot rage. It's so intense, so immediate that my vision actually blurs at the edges for a second. My hand still holding the phone clenches into a fist so tight my knuckles ache. I want to hurl the phone against the wall to watch it shatter into 1,000 pieces. A silly fight. I look down at Max. He's still watching me. His head cocked to the side, a picture of unconditional love and concern. I see the faint silvery hairs now sprinkled around his muzzle. I see the comfortable, trusting way he leans against my leg. I see the soul that saved me. And my aunt, my mother's messenger, had the audacity to call him a dog as if he were an object, a piece of furniture, a thing. The triviality of her words is a physical attack. It's an attempt to rewrite history to shrink the defining trauma of my adult life into a petty squabble, a childish tantrum. It wasn't a fight. A fight implies two parties arguing. This wasn't an argument. It was a betrayal. It was a violation of trust so profound it fundamentally altered the course of my life. And it wasn't over a dog. It was over my family. It was over my heart. Max is my family. That night, 5 years ago, my mother took my family and gave him away. She gave him away like a bag of old clothes. She looked at the one thing in my life that was a source of pure, uncomplicated joy and decided to extinguish it. Because as she would later tell me, she didn't like it. My breath is coming in ragged, angry bursts. The memory, the one I keep locked away in a lead-lined box, is rattling the cage. The edges of it are sharp, cutting through the fog of time. I can feel the cold dread of walking into that silent house, the slick, placid look on my mother's face, the frantic, heart-stopping panic as I realized Max was gone, the raw terror that he was lost forever, that I would never see him again, the terror that she had taken him to a shelter, that he was alone and scared in a concrete kennel, thinking I had abandoned him. That feeling, that absolute gut-wrenching horror, was not silly. It was the most terrifying moment of my life, and they want me to let it go. They want me to come back for a birthday party, to smile and make small talk and pretend that the last 5 years of silence were just some big misunderstanding. They want me to walk back into that family, the one that stood by and watched her do it, the one that called me dramatic for leaving. They want me to betray the terrified 22-year-old kid who had to pack a bag in 30 minutes while his own mother watched him with cold, emotionless eyes. They want me to betray Max. No. The word forms in my mind solid and unyielding. No. I look down at my phone. The voicemail is saved. I could play it again. I could torture myself with every condescending, manipulative syllable. Or I could do what I should have done in the first place. My thumb moves with grim purpose. I tap the voicemail. The options appear. Call back, save, delete. I press delete. A confirmation pops up. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this message? Permanently. Yes, that's the whole point. I press delete again. The message vanishes. It's gone. It doesn't fix the anger churning in my gut, but it's a start. It's an action. A reaffirmation of the boundary I drew 5 years ago. I am not that person anymore. I am not the boy who lived in her house subject to her whims. I am a 27-year-old man. I have my own home. I have my own life. I have my dog. We are safe here. Never I whisper the word a promise to the dog looking up at me. I'm not going back. Not for them. Max seems to understand. He lets out a soft huff and licks my clenched hand. His touch is warm grounding. He is real. Our life is real. Their manufactured drama, their guilt trips, their twisted version of the past, that's the illusion. I won't go. I can't go. Letting them back in wouldn't just be letting go of a grudge. It would be telling that scared 22-year-old kid that his pain didn't matter. It would be telling Max that his safety wasn't my absolute priority. It would be tearing down the entire world I built to protect us all for a piece of birthday cake. The answer is no. It will always be no. But the past doesn't stay deleted, does it? It's not a file on a phone. It's a ghost that lives in your nervous system. And that night, the ghost was rattling every chain it had. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I was 22 again, walking through the front door of my mother's house after a long shift. The house was always quiet, but this was a different kind of silence. It was a heavy, deliberate quiet. The kind of silence that precedes an ambush. Max, who was 2 years old, then always met me at the door. His whole body would wiggle his tail, thumping a frantic rhythm against the wall. But that day, there was nothing. No thump, 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 no happy bark. Just silence. My mother Eleanor was sitting at the kitchen table nursing a cup of tea. She was 47 at the time, and she had this look of placid finality on her face. A look I'll never forget. "Where's Max?" I asked, my stomach already starting to clench. She took a slow sip of her tea. She didn't look at me. I gave him away. The words didn't compute. It was like she'd said them in a foreign language. "You what? What are you talking about?" A neighbor, she said, her voice perfectly even. 3 blocks over. They were looking for a dog. He'll have a nice big yard. She finally looked at me, and there wasn't a trace of remorse in her eyes, only a strange kind of resolve. I didn't like it here anymore. The world tilted on its axis. My blood ran cold, then hot. It wasn't a discussion. It wasn't a warning. It was a verdict that had been delivered and carried out while I was at work, powerless to stop it. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. A terrifying, crystal-clear focus descended on me. I turned without another word, grabbed my wallet and keys, and ran out the door. I ran the 3 blocks to the neighbor's house, my lungs burning, my mind screaming. I had the adoption papers saved as a PDF on my phone, a digital proof of ownership that I never thought I'd need to use against my own mother. The neighbors were confused, but kind. They'd been told I was unable to care for the dog anymore. When I showed them the papers, their faces fell. Max, who had been hiding under their table, heard my voice and came barreling out, leaping into my arms. I held him so tight, burying my face in his fur, just breathing in the scent of him, reassuring myself that he was real, that he was safe, that I hadn't failed him. When I walked back into my mother's house carrying my dog, the look on her face wasn't anger. It was disappointment, as if I'd ruined her perfect, tidy solution. I walked right past her, went to my room, and pulled out a duffel bag. I threw in clothes, my laptop, Max's food, his favorite squeaky toy, everything essential. She just stood in the doorway watching me, silent. That was the worst part, the silence. She watched me erase myself from her home, and she didn't say a word. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't apologize. She just watched. And in her silence, I understood. This was what she wanted. Not for the dog to be gone, but for me to be brought to heel, for me to choose her over my own life. And I had chosen. I walked out of that house at 10 o'clock at night with my dog and a single bag, and I never spent another night there again. A buzz from my phone snaps me back to the present. It's not Aunt Carol this time. It's my cousin Sarah. The message is short. And there it is, the crack in the wall. Aunt Carol's message was a hammer, and I could brace against it. But this is a whisper, a seed of doubt. She's really alone. The image of my mother sitting in that silent house day after day for 5 years. It's a miserable thought. My anger was a shield, but this message slips right past it and finds something softer, something I thought I'd buried long ago. A flicker of pity, or maybe just the ghost of a son's duty. I spend the next day in a fog-torn. My righteous anger feels complicated now, selfish even. Am I really holding the line for a noble principle, or am I just punishing a lonely 52-year-old woman for a mistake she made out of desperation 5 years ago? Finally, I can't take it anymore. I type out a text, my thumb hovering over the send button for a full minute. The conditions are non-negotiable, neutral ground, and the living, breathing proof of her betrayal right there with us. She agrees almost instantly. The park is windswept and gray. I see her sitting on a bench before she sees me. She looks smaller than I remember, older. The 5 years have been harder on her than they have on me. Max trots ahead of me, oblivious, more interested in a promising-looking patch of grass. The silence between us is a physical thing, a heavy blanket smothering the air. "You look good, Lucas," she finally says. Her voice is thin. I'm here for one reason. I say, my own voice colder than I intended. I need you to apologize. I need to hear you say you're sorry for what you did. She flinches. She looks down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. It was a difficult time for me. A difficult time. My voice rises sharp with disbelief. You gave my dog away. You tried to sever the single most important relationship in my life because you were having a difficult time. No, that's not. That's not why she stammers, looking up, and for the first time I see tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't about the dog Lucas. Not really. Then what was it about, I demand? Her shoulders slump. The confession comes out in a broken whisper. It was about you. You were 22. You had your job. You had your friends. And then you went out all on your own and you brought him home. She gestures vaguely toward Max, who is now happily chasing a squirrel. You didn't ask me. You didn't need my permission. You were building an entire life and none of it had me in it. And that little dog, he was the symbol of it. He was the last piece, the proof that you didn't need me anymore, that you were leaving. She finally looks me in the eye, and the raw, pathetic desperation I see there steals the air from my lungs. I was so scared, she says, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. I thought if he was gone, you would need me again. It was a horrible, selfish, twisted thing to do. I know that. I've known it every single day for 5 years. I didn't want to get rid of the dog Lucas. I was trying to keep my son. The confession hangs in the air between us, and it doesn't heal anything. It makes it all so much worse. The simple, clean narrative I've lived with my mother was cruel, and I was right to leave is shattered. In its place is this ugly, complex, pathetic truth. She didn't do it out of malice. She did it out of a selfish, suffocating fear that was disguised as love. She saw me becoming a man and tried to break my heart to keep me a boy. My anger returns, but it's a different color now. It's not hot and sharp. It's a deep, cold, heavy rage. "So you hurt me," I say, my voice dangerously quiet. "You traumatized me. You terrified my dog, and you broke our family name because you were scared. That doesn't make it better, Mom. That makes it 1,000 times worse. Your fear doesn't give you the right to control my life or poison my happiness." I can't look at her anymore. I whistle for Max. He comes running, happy and clueless. I clip his leash on. "This was a mistake," I say, turning to leave. "I have to go." I walk away, leaving her alone on that bench. I don't look back. Back in the safety of my apartment, I watch Max sleep on the couch, his paws twitching as he dreams. For 5 years, my entire adult identity has been forged in the fire of that one night. The man who was strong enough to walk away. The man who chose his own well-being over toxic family obligations. But now I see the other side of it. I wasn't just reacting to her cruelty. I was reacting to her weakness. My act of defiance was the answer to her act of desperation. It changes everything. It doesn't excuse her, but it reframes the entire conflict. A week passes. A week of me just walking Max, thinking, turning it all over in my mind. Forgiveness feels impossible. Forgetting is out of the question. But my anger, it's finally starting to recede, leaving behind a vast, quiet sadness. I pick up the phone and call her. She answers on the first ring. "Hello?" Her voice is hesitant, full of fragile hope. I take a deep breath. "I'm not forgiving you," I say, making sure the words are clear and precise. "I don't know if I ever can, but I think I understand now. I understand that you were scared." A choked sob comes from the other end of the line. But that changes nothing about what has to happen now. I continue, my voice firm. Any relationship we have from this moment forward has to be on new terms. It has to respect my life, my choices, my independence. And that includes Max. He is part of my life. He is not negotiable. I know, she whispers, her voice thick with tears. "I know, Lucas. I am so sorry. I was wrong. I was so afraid, and I was so wrong. I'm sorry for hurting you. I'm sorry for hurting him." It's the apology I've waited 5 years to hear. Not just an apology for the action, but for the fear that caused it. And in that moment, I feel a shift. Not a seismic crack, but a subtle release of pressure that I've been carrying for a quarter of my life. The victory isn't in her defeat, it's in my control. The next weekend, I drive to her house. Max is in the passenger seat. I don't go inside. Instead, we go into the backyard. I let him off his leash and he explores the grass while I stand by the gate watching. My mother stands on the back porch, keeping her distance, just watching us, watching me. Watching the man I've become. It's not a reunion. It's not a celebration. It's a truce. A quiet, fragile beginning built not on forgetting the past, but on finally, truly understanding it. The 5 years of silence are over. A new chapter has begun, and it's being written entirely on my terms.